Hiya folks, Toad here with Visordown.com and welcome to the full road test review of the new 2020 Suzuki V-Strom 1050XT. So we have had the big V-Strom with us now for around about a week or so, maybe just over a week, 10 days, and we've done approximately 300 miles or so on it, which has included off-road, quite a lot of off-road actually, probably more off-road on this than most V-Strom owners will do, because I really wanted to put that to the test. We've done lots of on-road, back roads, and we've also done the motorway, dual carriageway, the obligatory sort of stuff that you would do if you were going to be commuting on it. We did put out a first impressions video the other day after I'd spent probably a day riding it on and off-road, so this is sort of filling in all the blanks from there, and we've just popped along to this picturesque location at the side of the A5. Bonus points if you can name the cafe for a little bit of a full video review. So here we go. So the two versions of the V-Strom for 2050, you've got the standard bike, which is £10,145, so that's just the V-Strom 1050, and you can pick that up for around about £120 a month on a PCP deal. Check your local Suzuki dealer for full terms and conditions. And the V-Strom 1050XT, which is this one, comes in at 11,445, or you can pick that up for around about 144 quid per month from your local Suzuki dealer. The XT, which you can see here, which gets the spoked wheels, it gets cruise control, hill hold, you've got 2-position seat, 12-volt socket, you get the center stand as well with it. You've also get the adjustable screen, whereas on the normal V-Strom you need to sort of get 2 Allen keys to adjust the screen. It's only 3-position, whereas this is apparently 5. You get the engine guards and the hand guards. What's extra on this bike? Crash bars that you can see mounted around the engine there. So the V-Strom engine, as you know, has been around for quite a long time now. I said it in the other video, the original architecture of that motor stretches right back to the TL1000 when it was a 999 or 1000cc. And it has been bumped up to 1050 and plonked into the V-Strom for a few years now. It's quite a versatile unit, because it's also been in things like the Bimota, it's been in the Cagiva, Raptor, I believe it was fitted to, the TL1000S, TL1000R, and of course the V-Strom that you see before you. It's putting out a shade over 100 bhp, so 106. That's been increased for 2020 over the old V-Strom 1000. It's got 73 pound-foot of torque as well, so it's a very, very torquey motor, but it's got a very nice linear power delivery to it, and it's also got a very, very nicely tuned ride-by-wire throttle as well. I've noticed absolutely zero jerkiness. It seems to be very, very accurate with the throttle response on it, so it's mapped perfectly for the bike. You do have different riding modes as well, which alter the power, the delivery, the throttle map, etc, etc. So while I'm talking about the delivery of the engine, I just want to talk about that power and also the torque and the linearity of it, and also the character of the engine, because I'm a really big fan of V-twin engines. I own a V-twin Ducati at home, a classic one, and I always love getting on a V-twin because they always have a very specific character and they deliver their power in a very specific way. And I'm not getting the same vibes that I normally get from a V-twin with the V-Strom, and I don't mean vibes as in vibes through the frame. I'm talking about that feel, that character, and the way that a V-twin normally makes you feel. It's almost like the V-Strom engine is a V-twin in configuration only, and everything else about it is kind of almost just utilitarian. It just wants to get along and get on with the job in hand and go wherever you're going to go, which is great in some circumstances. And if you're touring, you might just want that more laid back sort of delivery and the laid back feel that the engine's got. But I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more exciting and a bit more sort of poppy and bangy, and I don't know, it just didn't seem to click with me. It is quick. I mean, for a 100 horsepower bike that's pushing nearly 250 kilograms, it can get down the road really, really quickly, and you can push on it. But it just doesn't have any sort of theatre to it, it just, as I said, it just gets on with the job in hand. And if that's what you're looking for in a kind of Bavarian or Germanic fashion, then yeah, it's not a bad choice. If you're looking for something that's going to excite you and light a fire in your soul, it hasn't really done that with me. So you might want to take one for a test ride before you go and stick your deposit down on the thing. So the suspension on the 2020 V-Strom is a set of KYB 43mm forks up front, and we've got adjustability on those in the form of rebound and preload, and there is also a KYB rear shock absorber as well, which has got preload and rebound adjustability, and there is the remote preload adjuster just mounted on the left hand side. I've got to say the preload adjuster is a bit of a fiddly reach around if you're trying to find it when you're moving. You can get a hand on it, but it's even worse for me because I'm a short ass and I have diminutive stature, so I have to properly sort of reach around to get a hand on it while I'm riding along. I have adjusted the suspension because I have been taking the thing off road quite a lot, so I've tried to soften it up, and the main feeling that I get from the suspension is it is more biased towards the road side of things, almost to the point where despite any knob twiddling and sort of changing the suspension, I can't really get a setup that works off-road and then on-road as well. It kind of always feels a little bit out of sorts at either end of the spectrum. Like I said, Suzuki aren't really branding this bike as a true off-road or an all-round off-road machine. They are branding it as an adventure touring machine, and I think it is much further to the side of the touring spectrum than the adventure spectrum. Like I said, I have taken it off-road, and it is actually quite good fun off-road once you get to grips with the size of the thing and also the way that the suspension is set up. Yeah, for a road setup, it's actually quite good. So the braking system on the V-Strom 1050 is Tokiko calipers front and rear, got 310mm discs at the front, and they are radially mounted. You've got nice feeling, very plush feeling brake levers, and the hydraulic clutch as well feels very light indeed, and the brakes are exceptionally powerful. It's a big bike, so it needs big brakes, and they are more than up to the task. I have also noticed that the ABS system works very well both on and off-road. It doesn't seem to cut in too intrusively, and when it does, it's nice and smooth and there's no judder or shake from the lever at all. So yeah, the braking system is more than adequate. I don't really think that it needs any more on that front, to be honest with you. The only downside that I can see with the braking system, and this is coming from my perspective because I think an adventure bike should be able to be taken off-road, is you've got no switchable ABS, even just for the rear wheel. You cannot turn that off, and I think it's a bit of an own goal because you can make that system watertight so that people can't turn it off by accident. You know, there are things that you can put in place to make it sort of foolproof so that people can't just switch off the ABS to the back wheel inadvertently, and it would make it such an easier bike to ride off-road, because tight turns, manoeuvring the bike, you do need to sometimes slide the back end around. Having the ABS cutting in is not conducive of doing any of that. So obviously, handling with a bike this size, this tall, is 247 kilograms claimed, and I don't know if Suzuki calculate that with a full tank of fuel or a couple of litres of fuel, but yeah, it is a big bike, and it doesn't wear its weight quite as well as some of the other adventure bikes in the class. That said, with the weight, you do get a sure-footed and secure feeling when you're riding the bike on the road. It feels very planted, and it doesn't feel like it gets flustered in any situation. The handling of it is kind of like you pick a line in a corner and you just stick to it. I liken it to sort of driving a big boat. You just sort of get it where you want it in the road, get it into the angle that you need it to be in the corner, and it will just track straight and true. My missus went on the back of it and she actually really loved it because she said it was just so secure feeling, and she felt great on the pillion seat because she's got lots of things to hold on to. As I've taken it off-road, I've also checked out the off-road handling, and despite my best efforts of tinkering with the suspension, couldn't really get the setup that would make it more accurate and make it feel a little bit less like a road bike on sort of semi-adventure tyres. Did a few things off-road with it. Went green laning. There's a gravel area that I know of where you can get that, you know, that's completely out of the way, and took it on there to do a little bit of sliding around and so on and so forth. And there's also quite a sort of tight, sort of almost motocross track bit, and it could do it all. Absolutely, that wasn't an issue, and it was quite slippery sand in some places, and the tyres held up with it really, really well. It's just the accuracy that you can get with some of the other adventure bikes in the class is just quite a lot higher, and for me, I just couldn't get that balance between an off-road setup and an on-road setup. So it is still fun to ride it off-road. It's got a lot of good points to the bike, and some of those good points from the on-road handling in terms of the sure-footedness, they do carry over to the off-road handling of the bike, but you kind of just want it to be a little bit more loose and just let you be a little bit more free with how you ride it when you're riding off-road, and it just isn't quite there. If I was going to say one thing, I would say that if you were going to travel somewhere and you were going to do long distances, and at the end of it there was a bit of off-road that you had to complete to get to your destination, this is a bike that can definitely do it. If you're looking for something that's going to be able to take you down the Trans-European Trail, there are much better bikes out there with the same kind of distance capability and luggage carrying capability for you to go and choose. So the comfort front on this one's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's got an 850 to 870 millimeter adjustable seat. On either settings, the bike is comfortable once you're on it, and the ergonomics are absolutely spot on. It feels very much like the big Africa Twin in that when you're riding it, the riding position is dominated by the big wide tank and the big wide handlebars and a very tall angular screen. It's all perfectly laid out on that front, and the lower body ergonomics as well are actually just as good. The only thing that lets it down, and I don't know why people who design adventure motorcycles think that you need to have a seat that's as hard as an enduro bike for it to be an adventure machine. You really don't. You can put a comfortable seat, a softer seat and a more plush seat on a bike like this and still call it an adventure bike. I don't know what the issue is. I've also tested the screen. I'm going to come on to the adjustability in a minute, but the actual protection that the screen offers is quite good. There's a little bit of blustering around your shoulders, but other than that, all of my head on the highest setting is well within the bubble, which helps with fatigue when you're riding for long distances and doesn't give you a headache or anything like that. So I was quite impressed with all of the general comfort of when you're riding it. It is only the fly in the ointment of the hard seat. So what do we like about the Suzuki 1050 V-Strom XT? I love the styling. I love the fact that it looks like a Dakar bike, and it also doesn't look like any other bike in that kind of big adventure touring sector. It kind of really stands out on its own. I also like the fact that it's got a 20 litres fuel tank, which actually in this class isn't the biggest, but the fuel economy that you get from it is absolutely excellent. I've averaged over 50 miles per gallon on this thing over the 300 miles that I've had it, and that has been a combination of hammering the thing off the rev limiter on back roads and B roads, sliding it around on a gravel path where you're basically going nowhere and spinning the back wheel, and also commuting up and down the motorway. So I think that's actually pretty good. I have no doubts that 230 to 240 miles, if you're riding sensibly, would be doable thanks to that tank and also the good fuel economy of the engine. The stability of the bike on the motorway and on B roads is absolutely excellent. I can't really fault that, actually, to be honest with you. It's good natured, it's stable, it just does what you want it to do in those situations. So yeah, high speed stability is very good. So the things that we don't like about the Suzuki V-Strom 1050XT is the seat is exceptionally hard. It's one of those where you just kind of bang yourself on the head and think, why didn't they just put a slightly more comfortable seat on it? It's a shame because it's an expansive seat, so you have got plenty of room to move about, but after 20 or 30 minutes of riding the thing, I'm starting to get a bit of a numb arse, which is a shame. The other thing that is a bit of a bugbear for me is the ability not to switch off the ABS. I think it's an absolute no-brainer to do, and it's something that a lot of people who buy adventure bikes, they want to be able to turn off the ABS, even if your bike is leaning this far over to the touring side of the adventure segment. So the other thing that I have difficulty comprehending is that they've given the bike an adjustable screen, but to adjust the screen you have to stop, get off, walk around the front, pull this big lever and then adjust it. And I know this thing looks brilliant and it looks like something somebody would use when they were climbing Mount Everest, which is very adventure, but having to get off and walk around the front and then change it, it seems like a massive own goal to me. And if you're going to put that on the front and make it look totally adventure, give it a 21-inch front wheel and make it a proper adventure bike. So the verdict of the Suzuki V-Strom 1050XT. I think it's an excellent touring motorcycle. It's got decent comfort with the addition of a softer seat. It's got excellent fuel economy and you can go super long distances on it. The weather protection is good. I think it looks fantastic. And the only thing that really frustrates me about the bike is that this is the XT version. I'm sure that stands for extreme, and it's supposed to be the more extreme version. But in actual fact, it's probably no better when you take it off-road or down a green lane than the standard V-Strom that has the cast wheels and a few other things. This has a few other things that doesn't, but none of them make it more of an adventure bike. If you're looking for something that is going to take you long distances and doesn't really look like any of the other bikes, the other adventure bikes in this sector, the Suzuki V-Strom is a very good choice. If you're looking for a bike that you can go miles and miles and miles off-road on and take on things like the Trans-European Trail, there are better options out there for you. If you've liked this video, please don't forget to tell us in the comments below and hit the notification bell, like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of Visordown's latest videos. For all the latest news, reviews and motorcycle features, please head over to visordown.com. Thank you.